Hello again, and welcome to this interview in the series that is all about empowering a league of extraordinary mothers on how to rekindle that fire in your belly and step into life with more clarity, purpose, and excitement. Today, I have with us the gorgeous women from Nourishing the Mother, Bridget and Julie, and they are bringing with them a wealth of knowledge from a podcast that they run and online courses and their coaching. But I'll get you both, if you would just take a minute for the mums that are tuning in that don't know who you are, can you tell us a little bit about how you came to be doing the work that you do?
We came from two very different paths, actually. So I'm classically trained as a naturopath and doula, and really my whole life's journey has been about body disconnection and then building a wisdom about body connection and sexual sensual healing. And then Bridget.
And I really came from a corporate background, so very mental, financial services based, felt a strong disconnection in that environment, and then motherhood just blew me open.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we found ourselves. It was really us meeting in this natural parenting playgroup with our little babies and having these incredible conversations and just thinking there must be other women who want to have
There's got to be others
too. Yeah. Absolutely. So how long has Nourishing the Mother been going? Has that been running for a while?
We started podcasting.
Yeah,
so
okay.
that's over 4 years now.
Yeah.
Exciting.
So which really just started with being mothers, having a shared experience of pain and looking for a really conscious and aligned way out of that pain that worked for us and our families. And that's really what Nourishing the Mother was born out of. And that's what we hope we bring to the world, is just some really deep, honest conversations with heart and soul, and, providing a spectrum of conversation that we don't hear in our everyday lives.
Yeah. And to really, every mother wants their child to shine and wants their child to feel lit up in the world. And I think, we want that for ourselves too. And we know that they learn and they model through us. So it was about, well, how do I give myself what I want to give my child? And how do we nurture dynamic so everybody in the family can thrive?
Yeah. I think that's, that really, we talk about where things are born from, and this is the third series in this show, and it has really been born from speaking to so many women who are not necessarily looking for more information. We kind of know what we're supposed to be eating. We know we need to exercise. We know we need to sleep. We know. It is the piece between I know or I should and I will. So, we were talking about resistance before we actually hit record, and that's the big piece, isn't it? Anytime we are moving into something that is changing, we're going to come up with this, there's always a reason not to, even though we know we should. So can we start by really kind of looking at that and how you address when you're coaching and doing your courses and working with mums about how they move into that place of actually, yes, I will.
What I love is the shoulding. We talk about shoulding a lot, and I'm sure you do as well, Edwina. You wouldn't be here without that, right?
Yeah.
And look, Bridget and I bring our wisdom from two different aspects. I think it's probably great if you're willing for us just to talk about it individually as we would come at that. So Bridget does very much the mind, the belief, the processes around the shoulding and what's going on there. And then I look at the body felt permission that is lacking there. So are you comfortable if we do both?
Please. Perfect. Yeah, perfect.
Do you want to start with the shoulding?
Sure, yeah. So I think that the should, in terms of an expression of language, it's like an injected ideal. So it's when we say that we should do something, it's actually not us wanting us to do it. It's an injected idea that someone else has that we've somehow carried and think that we should do.
Yeah.
So, and that's often why there's not a congruence with action following it, because on some level we almost feel that resistance. We feel that sense that this is not me, but on some level I'm being taken this way. And that incongruence manifests in inaction. And so it's really about looking at, who says I should? Is it me, or is it you know, the authority that I've subordinated to my whole life. Maybe my parents thought that this is what you should do, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe some other kind of belief system that we've adopted and perhaps even unquestionably so have thought is the right way. So it's really, first of all, looking at where has the should come from, and, you know, analysing it and breaking it apart. That's sort of the way that I would go at it, first of all, and to look at who said.
Yeah, it's always great to write that down when you're going, yeah, I know I really should, but I just can't.
Yeah.
It's actually writing down, I should do this, but I don't want to, because often you'll see a belief there, and then you go, oh, okay, I should exercise more. Okay, do I really want to exercise more, or am I picking that up because I've been told when I exercise I look better, I'm more desirable, I have better relationships? Like, it's actually tracking back what is that should, because that will give you the path on where it's come from. Because have I picked that up from high school? Have I picked that up from witnessing mum and dad's relationship, from my mum literally doing the way that's how she functioned, and so without her even saying it to me, she's picked up and run with that.
It's an ingrained belief that you're taking.
And so we're really big on whatever change we want to see in the world for our children, and particularly if you're a mother of a daughter, I think there's an extra layer of wanting your daughter to forge a path that perhaps was never accessible to you. They can't do that unless you've created the safety and the awareness for that to even be an option. So we talk a lot about whatever you want for your children, you've got to first be willing to do for yourself, which I see you nodding because I know you know this already, and I know your first year was on teenage daughters, which is just the most profound and concreted down area of life where you see all of these beliefs playing out so magically, and it's often where those relationships become the most fractious. For those reasons. So we're really big on, if you can't do it directly for yourself, consider how you're doing it for your daughter by allowing yourself to do it now.
I think that is, it's just key with us mums. It is so powerful, because so often if we think it's for the benefit of our kids, we will, you know, step into it. Whereas if we think it's just for us, then it feels somehow indulgent. There's, you know, and it's, anyway, it's a great way to get motivated when we know that, you know, we're leading the way. We have to show our girls how to care for themselves by caring for ourselves first.
Exactly. And I think that's actually, you just hit on a point that I think about constantly and find myself talking about, and I'm still ruminating on and working out, is this concept of pleasure being the access point for how the feminine experiences love. So we want ourselves to be more desirable and feel more desire and feel lit up in the way that we think desire makes our bodies feel. But the truth of that is that the feminine experiences a form of love through the embodied experience of pleasure. So if you knew and you walked into your life knowing pleasure was your birthright, how different would your experiences be? How different would the choices be that you made? How different would your choice be in the next 5 minutes to what you spent your next 5 minutes on, to what you put in your mouth, to how you showed the world who you are, to how you treated your body and dressed her? Like, if you knew pleasure was your birthright in a really deep, knowing, felt way, how different would that path forward be? And
also, how different would you call yourself to show up to your daughter? Because it requires a huge repatterning. It requires, because so much of us, it's an abstract concept to even think of pleasure being a birthright, pleasure in your body, and, you know, just pleasure in your sexuality or sensuality or relationships. That's a very abstract concept for many, many women. And so to ask our daughters to walk the path of that belief, we have to do that for ourselves.
I often think as a culture, I'm sure you would see this with your clients as well, Edwina, is that often as women, we are so in service, right? And particularly with mothers, we are so conditioned to be the good girl and to do the right thing and to make sure that everybody's needs are looked after, to the point where all we're left with is the scraps, right? And I often even think about this, which you would say too, with with the way that we eat, and I do it and I self-check myself, is make sure everyone's got lunch and everyone's got dinner, and then you find yourself eating the scraps off of everybody's plate as you're putting away, because you haven't actually sat down and eaten anything. You haven't actually been still and nourished your body and asked yourself what she wants or how you're feeling. You're happy just to do, be in service because that's what you're supposed to do, that's what you should do, because that's where your value lies, in how good you are at serving others. And all of those needs that are coming up in your body and arising, we're really good at like squashing down until we can't hear them anymore. And I often don't think it's because we've made one conscious choice. I think it's the conditioning, hour after hour, day after day, where that roar that used to be so strong in our body as kids, when we would rage and be in touch with how we feel, and we wanted to jump, so we would just jump, and then we grow up and we realize, well, you can't do that and you shouldn't do that, and a good girl doesn't do that.
That's too risky and that's not safe.
Right. And it's all these layers that just kind of like sediment or mud just kind of layer over the top until that voice that used to scream is so quiet. Sometimes we can't even hear it. And then as a culture, we're left waiting for the permission from outside of us. We're left waiting to be anointed by the people we see around us, to put the crown on our head and say, you are worthy and you are deserving, because we have so been trained out of knowing our deep inner worth and inner knowing and the ability to access our own crown, right?
Essentially conditioned to look outside of yourself, for everything that you want, instead of recognizing that if I want that from my partner, if I want that from my life, if I want to call that in, I have to ask life to do that by, first of all, giving myself permission to do that for myself. It doesn't come from outside of us unless we're feeling worthy enough to receive it.
My mind is just racing. There are so many pieces in what you have just said, that picking off people, our kids' plates, and we've all done that. But I talk about it, I talk about that piece, but I talk about it in terms of getting people to, when they brush their teeth, to think about each tooth that they're brushing. Because I think as mums, we are always thinking 2 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours ahead. The ability to be where we are right now. I mean, if you think about when you get up to get dressed in the morning, I know particularly when my kids were little, it's like, what's at the end of the bed, what's not too disgusting. It's simply covering up, as opposed to dressing to feel beautiful, unless you've got a particular occasion. And it's the way we eat, the way we interact, the way, it's everything just becomes this distracted motion, going through the motions of one thing to the next. So that's one piece of it. But, I want to go back into what you were talking about before, about pleasure being a birthright. And I actually think I feel like I need more clarity around what you actually mean by that. So what does that look like when it's in action?
Yeah. So I guess when I'm talking about that, I'm saying that, look, it gets a little bit tantric, but I'm going to sort of distill it down a bit, is that we are the feminine embodiment of the goddess. So through our sacred feminine organs, we have like a direct power point, if you will, to the feminine side of God, right? The goddess. And through that life energy, we find our path to our ancestral deep inner knowing, wisdom, groundedness. We connect up through that to our intuition, to our body's sense of feeling. And it's through that pathway of pleasure that we can connect with love, because it's the plug route into divine love or spiritual love, whatever that means for you. There's something that's bigger than you. And then from that place, we can fill our bodies and move it outwards from us to fill more than us. So when I think about pleasure being our birthright, I'm literally saying to my daughter, you are born female. And because you are born female, you have a direct, unbreakable, unshakable taproot into the divine feminine. Never can that be broken ever, even if you think you've forgotten or perhaps you've never known. By being born female, that you. From there, every is a pathway or an opportunity to be in and with pleasure, and that when we are willing to honor our deep sacred need and desire for pleasure, we can fill up. And when we fill up in that way, it's effortless to overflow that love outwards. It becomes our magnetic pulse. People are drawn to it. It's whatever the form of seduction or life energy person you want to have sex with. It's what do I want to make love in my world to? What makes my heart and my body open in beauty and absorb it in? And what colors do I love? And what food do I love? And what scents do I love? It's sensuality, right? Sensuality is all of our access points to filling up our feminine. And our feminine is where our magnetism is, to draw that which we want towards us, and for ourselves to be the magnet that fills those up around us. It's pleasure that anchors all of that in. And so as women, I believe, Bridget believes, our birthright is to know that in our sovereign core, to act with integrity and honouring of that as we move forward, and to know that it's from there that all other aspects of our life will come forwards, right? So that for us is undisputable. Our issue then is what gets in the way of that.
Yeah, and our issue is also not getting stuck in, oh, if it doesn't feel good, then it's
Yes.
not right? Because even with opening up to pleasure and cultivating pleasure, there's a very delicate dance between pleasure and pain, because as we embark on that journey of evoking pleasure and feeling that, we're going to hit edges of pain, because we're going to confront every reason that we've been told we can't have that, or every reason that we believe we're not worthy. And so it is, through seeking pleasure, we're going to enter pain. And it's not so much about, oh, I want that instant gratification.
Yes.
It's about pleasure as a pathway or an expression of connecting to the essence of you.
Yeah.
Pleasure as an expression of your greatest alignment of self. And that comes through pulling apart the shoulds, the beliefs that you should have that are not you. It's almost getting a old free-spirited girl. And we will face, every kind of edge with that. And in fact, our children are beautiful at taking us to those edges, because they are asking us to meet ourselves again.
Yeah.
It's not profound.
So, for the mums that have kind of felt like they've completely lost touch with that, and, that can happen post-birth, it can happen just through the business of life, it can happen through changing body shape, it can, there's all these different things that cause us to lose sense of feeling any sort of sensuality or even liking ourselves and how we speak about our bodies. So how do we take those, what are some great first steps to starting to wake up that beautiful inner goddess that is in everyone?
I think there's so much about when we change that we don't have reverence for in our current masculine culture. So we look around the world, and in the advertising and the way that the world is run, in the way that we take on our cultural beliefs, it's that there's this one form of what beauty is, and it looks like this, and if you don't fit that you're not beautiful, and that we're supposed to be static and always look the same and always feel the same and always produce the same. It's like this one linear view of masculinity. It's this trajectory that's always the same. And the truth is, the feminine is always change. That's what the feminine is. And she shifts and she cycles. And there's going to be seasons where we can't stand to be in our body. And there's going to be seasons when all we want to be is out in the world. Seasons when all we want to be is deeply within ourselves and shut the rest of the world out. And I think the issue is that we're not cultured in learning how to read and move with our feminine desire for cyclical knowing, because it's within our cycles we find more depth. We find, okay, this is the part of my that now needs to be torn away. And sometimes that's really painful. Sometimes that looks like we give birth to a baby and we go, God, I don't know who I am anymore. And what I used to think was important no longer is. And what I wanted was back there and I can't seem to get there anymore. And my body used to be like this, at this type of birth, and now my body has failed me.
My relationship used to be this way and now it's this way and I can't get it back there and I don't know what to do. I don't know who I am or who my partner is.
And I often think these seasons, we want to read them in our very masculine culture as...
And fix them.
Yeah, right. Fix them. Medicate them. They're not on the way. They're, off the way. And what we're always trying to relay is there is wisdom there. There is a path. And if we only had a culture of women around us that took us into that tent and said, honey, you're cycling. What's here for you? You've entered the underworld. You're going through a mini death of an identity in order to take off the coat that no longer serves you and come out reborn, right? It's the death, life cycle of the feminine. So if we had reverence for the process of shedding, which is where we often find women are lost who they are, lost their direction, lost in partnership, lost in their body, and they're wanting a path out of it. But you've kind of got to go through the underworld to get to the aligned self that's trying to shed so it can be reborn. But you've got to have reverence for that as a process and have a tribe of women who can help, as you would do as a coach, understand, decode and reconstruct the woman that's trying to emerge, because we can't be the same. You can't be a woman that has greater influence, who loves more, who feels more, who gives more in this world if you stay the same. So we've got to shed, we've got to break the eggshell, right? But there's many eggshells in our life. There's not just one. And each time we have a child, we go through another eggshell breaking, right? And we birth a new version of us who holds more, who can do more. But there's a death in that. And that's freaking painful. And we struggle to be there because we don't have reverence for the pain of being there, for the process of shedding that is so innate in who we are as women, and yet our culture rallies against it.
I can remember when my second baby was due, it's heading for 18 years ago now, but I can remember thinking, I've got no, there's no room in my heart. Like, my heart is so full with my first child. Like, how do I do this? This is a really weird conversation in my head. And I can remember each child, having that conversation, like, your heart just grows.
Right. Your heart grows and then everything else grows with it. But there's a process of change that has to happen for that. And I often think in a culture that says it loves beauty, it only looks for one spectrum of beauty. But if we looked across the human race as a linear from its time of, let's say, conception to now, every 100 years there's a different version of what beauty is. In the Renaissance, it was full and round, and rolls were the most gorgeous thing in the whole world. And in other times it would be long earlobes and, I don't know, long legs. And in other times, it just, the version of beauty is not one thing. And when you realize that the feminine is a spectrum of beauty, and that in fact the most magnetic women you will ever meet are not the most beautiful. The greatest seductresses in our world have not been the classic version of beauty that we have. They have something in them that's like charisma, that shines out from within them, that makes you want more of them. And we forget that we have that magnetism when we listen to our version of life, aliveness, beauty. When we cultivate a practice of coming back to our own pleasure, we wait to be lit up by someone. It's like, well, I'll wait for my partner to eventually tell me I'm desirable, and then when they touch me, I'll wait to be activated by them.
It's always permission from outside, pleasure from outside.
But the truth is, our activation of pleasure, our access to pleasure is not outside of us. We don't need to wait for someone to light it up within us. Our primary sexual sensual relationship is with ourselves. So coming back from a place of, I can't stand the way I look and my body's changed so much and she's covered in this and this and this and it's not the same, Don't be the same. Don't be the maiden who's stuck in naivety and doesn't know and can't hold more. Be the mother and the queen and the warrior who is so magnetic. But to get there, you've got to come back to this body. And sometimes that's going to be small steps, such as listening, rubbing away that that's covering that inner voice. What is it that I would most desire to do right now? Or it's lunchtime. Okay, what do I really want to eat right now? And then acting on that thing is, we can think it and then we go, oh, yeah, I can't do it for all these reasons.
Yeah.
But we're getting in our own way. We're being our own saboteur to that reconnection path because it's scary. And on some level, we know that when we come back to that, we're also going to have to go through a mini death of parts of us that have kept us really safe by being here. Yeah. And when you come back to the body and back to her knowing, you're going to hit stored memory in the body, parts of her that come back online and alive and go, there's something stored here. And on some level, we want to avoid that. Yeah. So I always think it's not the one big decision. It's the everyday having a willingness practice to show up for what is it that I most desire right now. And then being willing once a day to listen to that and act on it, because those small acts stack. And in another week, you will be a woman who feels more. And in another month, you will be a woman who feels even more. And in another year, who knows, right? And you start to reconnect. Oh, my intuition's starting to come back. And my energy that makes me want to feel desire and open and share my body with another is coming back. But it has to start with the primary relationship between you, learning to open. I mean, sexuality and our desirability is not how it looks. And yet that's what our culture says. When we look this way, well, then you get to access all of these things.
Yeah, when you look or have this, then you'll be this, then you'll be worthy.
Right, exactly. But the truth is, the greatest expression of ecstatic sexuality is the willingness to open, to feel, to be present, not stuck in the future act of what's going to happen next and what's on my list, to be open, to feel, to and the other thing hard for women to communicate, to say, here's what I need, here's what I want. The permission again to speak out loud that which you desire, and know that you have a right to receive. You don't need to be in the doing act, that in fact your greatest place is to be the absorber of the pleasure, because when you absorb, it actually expands out anyway.
Yeah. I'm just soaking this up. This is just, I love this conversation so much. And I love the idea of that, shedding the cloak of the old. And I talk about, we write our life story and we have all these fabulous chapters. And at any point you can, and I love the real visual of turning a page and you smooth it down and it's blank. And you get to decide. You choose, it's that 100% responsibility for me. I don't need anybody else's permission to say I'm good enough, pretty enough, whatever enough. And you write on that sheet, who am I going to be? What am I going to do? What am I going to have? And it's that, consciously stepping into the woman you want to become, making it a choice. And it's so empowering. We're talking about the empowerment part of empowering mums and making that choice and showing our kids that we get to choose. We get to choose.
And really the path of motherhood being an opportunity for incredible and expression and fulfillment, because I think we're also taught from our culture that motherhood is just something to survive or something to get through or something to just go through the motions with and not valued in and of itself.
Yeah.
But it's an enormous opportunity to deeply connect to ourselves and to consciously choose the life that we want to create.
Yeah.
Particularly if you've had a career for a long time and you're given this new opportunity to re-journey yourself, re-examine who you thought you were and feel into the pain of the identity shift that it brings and look for the wisdom in that. I think that we so often get stuck in this missing out, this sense of missing out, but yet the constant nature of the universe is transformation. We're always transforming. And so it's looking for, okay, well, if I think I lost something, what did I gain? And where is that equal exchange happening? Because it's there. We have to like ask the right questions to look.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
think, oh, sorry, you go.
I was going to say, I love what you said before when you were talking about the blank page too, because I thought, yes, that's also the question to ask yourself is if you can't do that thing for you right now, is thinking about the blank page, what would the queen like me do for herself right now? And then doing that as opposed to something you would do as the evolution of you, how you want to feel and who you are.
You.
Yeah, future you. Yeah. What would future you do? And you give her a name or characteristic or a feminine type, like the queen or the god, want to call it. What would she do now? Yep. And then you make choices based on that, and eventually, anyway.
And almost that because we can be so stuck in who we think that we are. But we are so much more than that. And those kinds of exercises really entertain the idea that actually there's nothing that's really impossible. It's just within the realms of our own limitations we've constructed. And so what an opportunity.
Oh, yeah.
It gives me tingles. I get all lit up when I do this work. It's so fun, that opening that, oh, is that possible? Really? For me? What? It's fun. It's really fun.
What you're doing, because particularly as women, we're like firecrackers, right? When we see someone or something or someone that's doing something we didn't even know was possible, we're like, that's possible. And then all of a sudden it becomes possible for us. And that's the beauty of women who are so good at communicating and sharing. And that's why we so value what it is that you're doing and putting out in the world, because that's what it is, right? It's lighting other women on fire, and it's giving them the permission they didn't know they had. And, you know, we have such reverence for that.
And I mean, even that, like, I hope our listeners can too, you know, because it ignites something, that potential.
Possibility. So, you know, it is this piece where, you know, when you're tuning into a conversation like this, a podcast or an interview, and you get all inspired, but then it is difficult once you get back into daily routine to remember. And it's like you can't even remember the language. There's a vague idea of the kind of thought, and it gets lost. And that's where bringing women together, and I think that you talk a bit about women's circles and how you bring women together to continue lifting each other up and continue having this conversation, and to have that person in your life that sees you and says, you are absolutely gorgeous right now. I am in awe of you. You know, to have somebody say that to you is just life-changing, isn't it? It's life-changing. So tell us, for the women that have never experienced a women's circle or being part of something like that, what does that look like, and how would mums go about even finding something like that?
Yeah, we run it a couple of different ways. So we do a once a year women's circle that we then create the intentional time to move them through processes that move from the beliefs that are holding them back to incredible thing with work is when we're in together and we're in a soup, we're all offering each other opportunities to mirror each other, to have a shared experience, to learn from every other woman how she feels on fire, like them on fire. And it's like this incredibly profound elevation of feeling and possibility when women come together. And I think it's tough to beat that in an in-person experience. So the next best thing we can do, because like you, we realize our audience is larger than locality will allow. So we then try to expand that into an online forum, I suppose. So we have intimate members groups, and then intimate what we call live round sessions that we move women through depending on which course we're doing. And we have the 3 areas that we talk about for what we have experienced as living an aligned life, which is through conscious parenting, through conscious sexuality and relationship, and then through conscious evolution of self. So we have separate live rounds with intimate groups of women, and within those women in an online community, we are able to create a space or a container that feels really held and safe to be open and vulnerable. And we set that tone by ourselves being open and vulnerable. And I think, like you, when you're willing to shed the layers that say you should do this, and this is the attainment of success, and this is, you know, as long as my baby sleeps and I look good and we've got the right house and the right car and right holiday, we're all good, and we're so awesome, and everything is so awesome, and we always go, whoa.
So and we create the safety for, you know, the openness, the open heart and sharing, and when you create that safety, which we've been able to do online quite amazingly, I think, women see more, they believe more is possible, and I think one of the biggest things you mentioned before, you know, how do you kind of take this into your world, and how do you know, we might have this sense of wanting to change, but in practicality it looks so difficult. It's because we're almost expecting our world to change with us, not seeing that everybody around us has a completely different set of, you know, values and things that they live their life by. And if we're trying to make them like us or make them care about what we care about, it's a fastest way to dim your own light, essentially. And so we spend a long time in particularly our self-development course, is looking at, you know, what is our life dictating is most important to us. Yeah. And then with our partners and children, what is their life dictating? Because everybody, you know, unconsciously or consciously runs their life based on this set of, you know, values, which is not, you know, virtues and things like that. It's more about how they spend their time, how they fill their space, what lights them up, you know, what are they consumed by, what do people come for them and see wisdom in them in. And that is when we stay connected to that part of ourselves, that's when we really bring our full essence and our magnetism to others. But when we expect particularly our intimate partners and family to really care about that stuff and project onto them about that stuff, that's when we're going to find friction and difficulty, because they're not supposed to love what we love. You know, we are supposed to love that. And so a lot of that process is holding women in the truth of that, so that they can both respect, you know, and honor the people around them for their true values, and stay connected enough to follow that path within that is yearning for them to expand and deepen and, you know, be of service through too.
Yeah, absolutely. With this series, each time I go through a series, I come up with a question at the end that I ask all the different speakers, because I think I'm a big believer that how we start our day sets the tone for the day. So I'm dying to hear, you know, on your perfect day, obviously every day doesn't start the same, but on your perfect day, how do you love to start your day? Maybe Julie, can I start with you?
Yeah. I know not every day is perfect, but I really also feel what you're saying, that when I'm willing to create sacredness around what I want to feel first thing in the morning, that I to some extent carry that with me as a center pole for the rest of the day. So I am very conscious about creating the space with my children. And so I have 4 like you, and my eldest is 13 and my youngest is 1. So I'm across the full spectrum, foot in every camp, babyhood, toddlerhood, primary school, and so I get the spread of demands. But I'm really clear on, I need these things to feel amazing. And when I feel amazing, everything else is kind of just flows from there. So if the wheels are falling off, I do ask myself, where have I not used my voice to say, here's what I want and need, and therefore why have I said that? So to come back to the start of the day, I love to start, I love really into the bullet coffee lately. And my husband and I, that's our routine. So we get up with my baby, she would wake up around 6:30 or something. So she's kind of our alarm clock. So we get up with her. And then I sit down on the couch and have a cuddle, and he makes me a tea followed by a bullet coffee. And I have a slogan: when mummy's having coffee, she likes space. So this space comes with coffee, and no one enters this space while I sit with my husband and drink my coffee. And so the kids will get up over the course. It takes about an hour. So we make sure that we've got an hour, probably half an hour, I suppose. Half an hour to 45 minutes, depending what time people wake up. that we've got at least half an hour, my husband and I, to sit together in the room. Kids can be sort of moseying in and out, but largely we have a space bubble where we're enjoying a slow moment together, connecting. And during that time, I'll also say something along the lines of, you know, what do you want or need to get done today? What do I want or need to get done today? And then we map out a plan together from there. Because by the end of the day, then our schedules and the way that our day works might run completely differently, but I can relax all of my anxiety and conscious brain that wants to do all of this stuff, because I know we're on the same page. He knows by the end of the day, I need time out to go and have a coffee with a friend. I need to get some work done. But I also want to paint the front door and go to the park with the kids. And he goes, well, that's cool. I've got to do some work and I want to mow the lawns and I want to something else. Yeah. And then we go, right, okay, so in nap time, you'll do this, I'll do this. Before that, in the morning, we'll do this. And so it means by the end of the day, everybody's had their needs met because we've communicated at the start of the day. And I've been really clear in saying, here's what I need for my day. Yep. Knowing that there's value and love in the honoring of that. And that as the divine masculine that he is, he's desiring to honor that. He's desiring to fill that space for me. Yep. And me not saying something is a disservice to him as much as it is to me. So by willing to say, here's what I need, I trust your masculine is going to want to beautifully and divinely move forward with me. Here you go. At the end of the day, I've been the best provider today, and my woman is feeling so looked after, and all it is because I've said at the start of the day, here's what I need and want today.
Yeah.
So
I love my husband makes me my coffee in the morning as well, and I treasure that little routine, because it is somebody being of service to me, because 99% of my day is being of service to other people, which I love, and that is my choice. But starting the day with my husband, doing something that's just this beautiful little ritual, I treasure that. It's a really special little piece.
Yeah, I feel that.
Bridget, I can't wait. This is so good.
I don't know if I can beat that. For me, it depends, because my perfect morning, it depends a lot about what my nights look like, because I still have a toddler who wakes quite frequently. Yeah. And so for me, it's a very, very conscious connection before I take my feet out of my bed about what I need. Yeah. So if I'm feeling extremely strung out or resentful or just in need of greater rest exhausted, because I'm pregnant as well, it's really connecting with and being willing to voice those needs. So that might be saying to my husband, I need you to get up to the kids right now. I need more sleep. And being able to really own that, even if he's had a late night or if he's got a big day, valuing myself enough in how I serve my family and myself to know that my sleep and my rest is a priority too. And then if I'm feeling full and feeling great after a night, it'll be connecting with, how do I want to show up in my morning with my kids? What do I need to feel like I can get done this morning to both feel connected to myself and to connect to them? And that will be a really conscious choice around being both in service and both holding my boundaries. So one of my boundaries is I really like to have a beautiful breakfast. And so I'm not going to get you or do X, Y, Z until I've been able to sit down with my breakfast with minimal interruption and enjoy it. Because I really know and am intimate with the patterns that I can get into and feel resentful of. And resentment is really a manifestation of our own needs and values that we haven't listened to.
Yeah.
God, I feel that. Yes.
And we can so easily outwardly blame our partners or our children for that. Yeah. But it's a reflection of self. It's a reflection of, I haven't valued myself enough to make myself a priority. And I know I can't make anybody else a priority until I've listened to what I need to show up. And so that's a fairly simple one for me. And on different days it might be, I really need to get out and walk the dog for half an hour on the river so that I can come back to what I know my kids need from me today. And it's just being able to feel into the flow. And I think that's the feminine, that's knowing that I don't have a set routine every day. I check in with what I need, and that can look different.
Yeah.
And to be able to be willing to flow with that.
Yeah.
And be making it safe for my family to flow with that too, as opposed to them getting stuck into anything that's too rigid.
Yep. Yeah, it's perfect. It's perfect. I know you have a special gift for the mums that are tuning into this. Have you got a minute to tell us what that is, please?
Yeah, well, like you, we really love practical tips. So we love the philosophical conversations where we can all get like, yeah. But then we do, like, you really want to pull it down. Yeah, pull it down into something that's concrete and manageable and doable, and will create change when we're willing to create and carve out the space and time to make a step towards honouring ourselves more than perhaps where we find ourselves now. So
it's cool. We've created this wonderful kind of digital product which you can go to and grab from our website. But it's 7 tips to shift out of resistance and into aliveness.
Yeah.
So it's really bringing into practice so much of what we've talked about.
Yep.
Yeah, so we're talking about practical tips for considering the shoulding, what's in the way, the resistance, and then bringing it down from the head into the body. What's the pathway to creating shifts in opening up more, to conducting love through our body in various forms, to creating more of that desirability within so that we can know it without. So that's going to be our top 7 tips, and we will sort of detail what you can do in each of those, because we would really love to see more women feeling magnetic in who they are.
Yeah. And you can get that at nourishingthemothercourse.com, and it's /extraordinary mothers freebie.
Oh, there'll be a link to it under our interview. People just click on it and find it. But I know there's going to be lots of women that are tuning in that are going to want to dive in and find out more about you and to look at the work that you're doing. So what's the best way for them to find you?
Probably, on our website, so it's nourishingthemother.com.au, but we are also on Instagram, Facebook and Pinterest as Nourishing the Mother. And we love, like you, we love engagement, we love interaction, we love comments, we read literally everything, even if it takes us a week to get back to you. We promise that we do, because we really feel a heart and soul drive to doing the work that we're doing, which is, so what we feel from you as well, Edwina. So we're so immensely grateful that you found us and that you were willing to invite us on, and we just thank you. Like, it's really amazing.
Well, we're all so grateful that you're a part of this, and I know that the feedback is going to be amazing. So thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, and maybe we'll do this again in another series. I have a feeling.
We would love to stay in touch. We love the work you're doing in the world. It's amazing.
Thank you so much. All right, bye for now.